Before I tell you this story, I want you to do something for me. I want you to imagine you're cold. Really cold. Not forgot my jacket cold. Not the AC is too high cold. I'm talking about the kind of cold that makes it hurt to breathe. The kind where your fingers stop feeling like fingers, where your brain starts making decisions that the rest of you will regret. Keep that feeling in mind, because it matters. You know those stories that somehow get stranger every time you look at them? Yeah, this is one of those stories. I can't believe I'm saying this, and honestly, when I first came across it, I thought people were exaggerating. I thought someone, somewhere, had added details that weren't real. Because when I first heard it, I remember thinking, no way. There has to be a mistake somewhere, a mistranslation, a missing detail, something. But there wasn't. Every detail checked out, every strange, uncomfortable, impossible detail was real. So let's go back. All the way back to February 1959, the Soviet Union, the Ural Mountains, a place so remote, so brutally cold, that even experienced climbers treated it with respect. The temperature in February regularly drops to -30 degrees Celsius. That's -22 Fahrenheit. The kind of cold that doesn't care who you are. The kind of cold that has opinions. And into this landscape, 10 people decided to go hiking. Now, I want to be clear about something. These were not reckless people. These were not thrill seekers who didn't know what they were getting into. The group was led by a 23-year-old man named Igor Dyatlov, a student at the Ural Polytechnic Institute, experienced, methodical, respected. The kind of person who planned for everything, who checked the weather, who knew the route, who had done this before. His team was the same, 8 fellow students and 1 older graduate, all experienced hikers, all trained for exactly this kind of expedition. These were the kind of people who survived mountains, not the kind of people mountains survived, which is what makes everything that follows so deeply unsettling. The group set out from the city of Sverdlovsk on January 23rd. Their goal was to reach the summit of Otorten, a mountain whose name, in the local Mansi language, roughly translates to "Don't go there." I'm not making that up, that's the name. Don't go there. And yet, here they go. For the first several days, everything went normally. The group hiked, they made camp, they wrote in their journals. They even had a group newspaper they wrote together for fun, full of jokes and drawings and little updates about the trip. They seemed happy. They seemed fine. But on February 1st, the weather turned. A storm rolled in. Visibility dropped. The wind became something you had to fight against just to move forward. And the group made a decision. They would set up camp on the slope of a mountain called Kholat Syakhl and wait out the conditions. Kholat Syakhl, in the Mansi language, that means dead mountain. 2 mountains, 2 names, both telling them the same thing, and still they stayed. Now here's where I need you to really pay attention, because this is the part of the story where logic stops working. The group set up their tent on the slope of Dead Mountain. They ate dinner. They wrote in their journals. Igor Dyatlov even wrote that they planned to continue toward Otorten the next morning. Normal, routine, planned. And then something happened. We don't know what. We may never know what. But something happened inside that tent that changed everything. When search teams finally reached the campsite 9 days later, here's what they found. The tent was still standing, still upright against the mountain wind. The Avalanche Theory says a sudden snowslide could have panicked the group, forced them out of the tent fast. The internal injuries caused by the pressure of snow. It's possible, it's logical, but there are problems. The slope angle wasn't steep enough for a natural avalanche. There was no evidence of a snowslide at the site, and the footprints leaving the tent were calm, not panicked, not running, walking. People fleeing an avalanche don't walk. There's the military testing theory. The Soviet government was conducting secret weapons tests in the region during this era. Some researchers believe the group may have stumbled into a test zone or been exposed to some kind of pressure weapon, which might explain the internal injuries without external damage. It's not impossible. The Soviet Union was not known for transparency. Files related to this case were classified for years. But if it was a government cover-up, it was a very strange one. Because they let the families see the bodies, because they conducted an investigation even if they closed it quickly. Cover-ups usually don't leave this many loose threads. Then there's infrasound, the idea that wind moving across the mountain at certain angles can produce sound waves below the threshold of human hearing. Sound you can't hear, but sound your body feels. And at certain frequencies, infrasound can cause panic, disorientation, a feeling of intense, overwhelming dread, the sensation that something is deeply wrong without being able to explain why. Some researchers believe this could explain why the group fled, not because they saw something, not because something attacked them, but because their own nervous systems were telling them, run. And when your body says run in a situation like that, you run, even into the cold, even without your boots, even into the dark. But here's the thing, here's what I keep coming back to. Every theory explains part of it, the panic, the injuries, the strange behavior. But no single theory explains all of it. And in a mystery like this, the details that don't fit are the ones that matter most. Why was Dubinina's tongue missing? Why did the footprints show people walking calmly away from the tent if they were in a panic? Why did some of them have radiation traces on their clothing? Yes, radiation, mild but present. Nobody has explained that either. 9 people went up that mountain, 9 people who had names, who had families, who had futures. Igor Dyatlov was planning to graduate that year. Zina Kolmogorova kept a diary about everyday things, food, weather, jokes her friends made. Yuri Krivonishenko loved music. These were not characters in a story, they were real people. And whatever happened to them happened fast, and happened in the dark, and nobody came to help. The thing that stays with me isn't the injuries, it isn't the radiation, it isn't the missing tongue or the broken ribs or the fractured skull. It's that moment, that one moment inside the tent. 9 experienced people in a tent they had set up themselves, with supplies, with equipment, with everything they needed to survive the night. And then, something. One moment, one decision, leave, now. No debate, no hesitation, no time to put on shoes. What did they think was in there with them? What did they see? What did they hear? What made 9 trained, intelligent, rational human beings decide that -25 degrees and total darkness was safer than staying inside? In 2019, 60 years after the incident, Russian authorities officially reopened the case. Their conclusion? An avalanche. A lot of people weren't satisfied with that answer, and honestly, I understand why. Because the evidence doesn't perfectly fit,
and the questions don't go away just because a file gets closed. Maybe it was an avalanche. Maybe it was infrasound. Maybe it was something the Soviet government tested and never admitted to. Maybe it was something the mountain did on its own, in the way that wild, cold, indifferent places sometimes do. Maybe we'll never know.
But I think the reason this story doesn't know, the reason people are still researching it, writing about it, making documentaries about it 67 years later, isn't really about the mystery. It's about that feeling. That feeling we all have sometimes, late at night, when the room feels wrong, when something shifts and you don't know what, when your body knows something your brain hasn't caught up to.